Good to go.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order at 19:03. Sorry, 7:03. Flex salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And can I get roll call?
Jacob King,
Present.
Jennifer Layton. Here. Mike Connell,
Here.
Ragnar tonight,
Here.
Matt Parisi. Sam Irons,
Here.
Ethan Salata.
Approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the May 10th meetings minutes? Got a motion?
I'll motion to accept the minutes.
Yeah, I'll check it.
Got a motion. Commissioner Layton, second by Commissioner Connell. And can I get a roll call, please?
Certainly. Jacob King,
Hey.
Jennifer Layton. Yes. Mike Connell,
Yes.
Ragnar tonight,
Yes.
Sam Irons,
Yes.
5-0 passed.
Okay, we're gonna move into public hearings. Gonna go ahead and open the public hearing at this time.
Yeah, and you can just, that script, you'll just take you right through that. So
Oh, here's that.
here's Zach. So let the record reflect that Zach arrived.
And apologizes for something.
And Jacob's on the phone, so you're sitting in the center chair.
So we're ready to open the public hearing.
Ready to open it?
Yep,
We've already gotten past the minutes.
Well, the public hearing on variance VAR 23 007 is called to order. Stone is the applicant and owner. Subject property is described as tax lot 6800. Assessor's map 4N 25E 17 AD. Is zoned residential. The request is to approve a variance to the setback of more than 10% for reasons related to slope. Criteria are found in the Boardman Development Code, Chapter 5.1 variances, is being processed as a type 3 decision. And are we running both?
Yeah, but read the first one and then just do the rest of the text. Then when we come back, we'll do the second one and then the rest of the text.
Perfect.
Yep.
The public hearing on the North Boardman Urban Rural
No,
District.
no,
No,
skip that one for now.
we're doing that one after.
Right, so yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the public hearing of this event will be conducted as follows. We'll start with staff report and public testimony in the following order. Excuse me, the applicant, followed by any testimony in support of the application, followed by any testimony opposing the application, followed by any neutral testimony, followed by the applicant's rebuttal, if there is any. There'll be then we will close the public testimony. After the record is closed for testimony, no other testimony will be heard from anyone unless the planning commission has a specific question. The planning commission may ask questions of staff, after which the planning commission will discuss the matter and make a decision. The planning commission may make a final decision tonight, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain in the future. If the matter is continued, this will be the only notice of that time and date you will receive. If you wish to speak, please fill out a testimony form and submit it to the city recorder. I will recognize those people wishing to speak. Any questions should be addressed through myself. Please state both your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. As the hearing is being recorded, please keep any testimony concise and to the point. Testimony should be on the action under consideration and address the substantive criteria. The criteria that apply to the decision are listed in the staff report. Testimony on other issues will be rejected and not considered by the planning commission. Failure to raise an issue in sufficient detail to allow planning commission and the parties the ability to respond to the issue prohibits an appeal to the land use board of appeals based on that issue. Similarly, failure to raise constitutional or other issue regarding any conditions of approval in sufficient detail to allow the planning commission to respond to the issue prohibits a lawsuit in circuit court on that basis. Now, I ask the members of the planning commission to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. Hearing none, does anyone in the audience wish to challenge a planning commissioner's impartiality? Hearing none. Planning official Carla McLean, will now present the staff report.
I've always wanted to be a karma.
It's been a very, very long day.
That's okay, I understand on this end too. So yes, this is a variance to allow a rear yard setback, variance of greater than 10%. The owner and the applicant is Kyle Stone. Specifically, it's tax lot 6,800 of assessor's map 4 North 2517 AD. It is zoned residential. It's on the south side of Southwest Kincaid Road between Southwest Willow Fork Drive and Cottonwood Loop. So it's to the east, or excuse me, to the west of us here. So the approval criteria, it is a Class C variance because it doesn't meet the standards for either a Class A or a Class B. It does require a public hearing. That's why we're here this evening. So we started this process with the applicant submitting a permit for a shop. And working with Rolf Craig, who was at that point in time our special projects coordinator, determined that it didn't meet the setback requirements. So he worked with the applicant a bit, had the applicant submit a variance request. The pictures that are a part of the staff report do show that there's a fairly significant slope in the backyard. There is a standard that requires that there be 10-foot separation between structures, and this allowing a setback of 3 feet could impact the neighbor to the back. Because if they ever wanted to place anything, they could not come in and apply for similar variance because they would have to meet the setback requirement because that building could not be more than or closer than 10 feet apart. Not an issue because again, that neighbor would also have to meet the setback requirement. If they did have a concern or wanted to come in, have a variance and to be closer to their property line, the closest they could be would be 7 feet, because again, we still need 10 feet between structures. That's a building code requirement. What I can share on that front is I did hear from the neighbor. Arden Kent Meisner called and shared that he is in support of the request. That is the neighbor on the backside. He also indicated that he would be the most impacted by this action. So there is support from the neighbor. The applicant is the variance type is applicable because this variance is requested to be applicable to just a single platted lot. It's not for a lot yet, not like created. See, it was a long day for me too. And does not address a permitted or prohibited use. It is also not concerned with parking standards. So it's been applied for and it's being processed as a type 3 with notice and a public hearing before the planning commission. And again, from the pictures you can see, Rolf Craig, again, in his role as special projects coordinator, was on site, saw some of the issues that were there. Applicant submitted an initial picture and I asked him to submit some additional ones. So there are pictures there that show the slope. It shows a small retaining wall that's been built with the tape measure, so you can kind of get a sense of the height. So to put the shop back there and have it not be so close to the fence would be a significant relocation of dirt and materials. And so planning staff felt comfortable that this was a reasonable request, and slope can be a factor that needs to be mitigated in certain circumstances. So with all of that, there are no conditions of approval. He has to complete the planning process and obtain a development permit. He has submitted that application, and once this is approved, then we will go ahead and process that development review permit application. So we're just kind of, like I say, in this process, and once this is concluded, then we will issue the appropriate permit that will trigger him then being able to move to building permits and get the necessary building permits to construct the shop. Happy to answer any questions you might have. I know, I do too. I look at Sam. It's like he's just a person. It's the appropriate. I'll try to focus on Mr. Connor.
I actually have no questions. You answered all my questions, so, yeah.
Okay, perfect, great. Any questions, Jacob or Regna? From Zoom, any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
No question from Jacob, if that's what we're waiting for.
We haven't got to that yet. Is there any additional correspondence beyond what was included in the staff report?
No, just the neighbor, the phone call from the neighbors, the only correspondence that we've had.
Does the applicant wish to present any testimony? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the application? Does anyone wish to speak against the application? Is there any neutral testimony? And with no testimony, there's no need for rebuttal. The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Just, there was no questions raised during testimony. Does planning commission have any questions of staff? Is there any discussion from the commission?
Staff does have two things. In the staff report, I did get the wrong variance number at the very beginning. It is 007. It's correct in the notice. It's correct on the agenda, but for some reason I didn't get it right in the staff report. So that needs to change. And then the staff report currently has Jacob Kane's signature line that will need to be changed to represent Zach. Those would be the two changes that would be made to the staff report before it was finalized. So when you choose to make your motion, just identify it as presented with those changes noted.
So what was which one is the correct variance number? Is 007?
007, yes,
Okay,
yes.
and what was the other change?
Taking out on the signature line on the
Oh,
last,
the signature line, yeah.
yep, signature line,
Okay,
yep. Those two changes.
with no other discussion, should we entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve the application with the two corrections noted by staff.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the variance with the two changes noted. The variance number ending in 007 is the correct number. And the signatory line adjusted. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Can we roll call a vote, please?
Certainly. Jacob Kane,
Yay.
Jennifer Layton. Yes. Mike Connell,
Yes.
Ragnar tonight,
Yes.
Sam Irons,
Yes.
Zach Breezy.
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Are we ready to go right into the second?
Yep, go right into urban renewal, yeah.
The public hearing on the North Boardman Urban Renewal District is called to order. City of Boardman is the applicant, multiple landowners. The planning commission will review the proposed North Boardman Urban Renewal Plan, including its relationship to the comprehensive plan, make a recommendation to the Board of City Council. This is not a land use decision. Public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. Staff report, public testimony in the following order by the applicant, followed by any testimony in support of the application, followed by any testimony opposing the application, followed by any neutral testimony, followed by applicant's rebuttal if there is any. After that, we will close the public testimony. After the record is closed for testimony, no other testimony will be heard from anyone unless the planning commission has a specific question. Planning commission may ask questions of staff, after which the planning commission will discuss the matter and make a decision. The planning commission may make a final decision tonight, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain in the future. If the matter is continued, this will be the only notice of that time and date you will receive. If anyone wishes to speak, please fill out a testimony form and submit it to the city recorder. I will recognize those people wishing to speak. Any questions should be addressed through me. Please state both your name and address for the record when you come to the podium, as the hearing is being recorded. Please keep testimony concise and to the point. Testimony should be on the action under consideration and address the substantive criteria. The criteria that apply to the decision are listed in the staff report. Testimony on other issues will be rejected and not considered by the planning commission. Failure to raise an issue in sufficient detail to allow the planning commission and the parties the ability to respond to the issue prohibits an appeal to the land use board of appeals based on that issue. Similarly, failure to raise constitutional or other issues regarding any conditions of approval in sufficient detail to allow the planning commission to respond to the issue prohibits a lawsuit in circuit court on that basis. Now I ask the members of the planning commission to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact, bias, conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. Hearing none, does anyone in the audience wish to challenge the planning commissioner's impartiality? Hearing none. Planning official Carla McLean will now present the staff report.
I will change my name, okay? All right. So, initially when I sent this out to you guys last week, I sent it with just a memorandum, and then talking a little bit with Elaine Howard, who is on Zoom tonight and will be my backup on this, providing you most of the detail. After talking with her, I think the best way to approach the recommendation that we're gonna make to the city council, because there needs to be some evidence that's in the record when the city council approves this, that you heard it and you recommended it. I decided to go ahead and do a staff report, a findings document And I just borrowed Elaine Howard's work, and most of the staff report is just simply a cut and paste from the plan document that the city council will eventually adopt. Now, the plan document may change a bit on the land use front, as we go through the discussion tonight. And as I continue to talk to Elaine about some of the issues and maybe how to better reflect them. But I really just took out of some 50 odd pages that are part of both the plan and the report. I took those specific land use pages, and that's what informs this 7-page findings document. So I just tried to provide you, again, it's multiple, again, the applicant, the owner, well, I guess the applicant of the process is the city boardman. The owners are actually multiple, but the owner of the plan will also be the city of Boardman. Those properties are multiple. They are described in the North Boardman Urban Renewal Plan. The zoning is multiple. There's residential multifamily, there's light industrial, general industrial, master plan community, and commercial tourist commercial in this area. It's all north of Interstate 84 and it's east of Main Street. And the applicable standards are found in Oregon Revised Statute 457, which deals with urban renewal, specifically subsection 085, and under that section, sub 2, and then subsections D and E. And so that's what Elaine uses when she develops the plan document that this is all drawn from. So basically everything under approval criteria after I say are incorporated as part of these findings is work that Elaine had done. And so we need to talk about this, but I've been kind of going back and forth how to do this. I think it's almost will be beneficial for us to kind of do a tag team. I think I'm gonna skip a number of pages in the new staff report that you had that I sent it out today, and it's on your dais there. I'm gonna kind of skip to page 7 of this and do a couple of summary things and just say that legal notice for this hearing was published on June 29. Property owners and agencies are actually notified as part of the city council process. So I can tell you, I saw the notices, they've all been created, and I think they went out in yesterday's mail. And so notice for the city council public hearing has been mailed to every resident of the city of Boardman. And then the really impacted entities are special districts, and they have also been noticed of this process. Tonight's hearing date is reflected in this, and only this. I've not reflected the city council date because this is your recommendation to the council. This is your action. You are informing what the city council will do, but the city council takes in your recommendation and a lot of other recommendations when they make the final decision. So I also want to be really clear, this is not a land use decision. We're looking for conformance with the comprehensive plan. But we're not taking a land use action that would impact these properties. The action that will be taken that will impact the properties will be done by the city council, and it's the creation of an urban renewal district. So there is a relationship to land use planning, but this is not specifically a land use planning decision. And I hope that makes sense. If not, hopefully Elaine can explain it better than I can. So this has been a really interesting process for me. I've often heard about urban renewal. At the beginning of this, I really didn't know much about it other than I knew that the city had two. And I haven't seen them in action. I haven't been here long enough to really see kind of what the outcome of an urban renewal district is. Hermiston is going through the same process right now where they're in the process of also creating an urban renewal district. So it's been kind of interesting to read a couple of EO articles about that and get a little bit more insight. So I think at this point in time, the city is the applicant as well as the city is the reviewing entity. It's kind of an awkward relationship that happens periodically. Elaine is an independent consultant and she's online, and there is a PowerPoint presentation that was part of your packet. It's like this, and then tonight I added another sheet on your table. So Elaine is gonna just kind of walk you through the PowerPoint and talk a little bit about this. And she's really the one to ask the detailed questions of. What I would say is that for me, looking at this as kind of the novice, the plan document was very informative because it talked a lot about what an urban renewal district is, what it does, how it functions, what the role of planning is, all of those things. The report that accompanies that is really a financial document. It talks about the dollars and cents. And it gets into actually a lot of things that, you know, I have an advanced degree and I took finance, I took accounting, and it still kind of just goes right over the top of my head. It's not where I do well. I will say that I was very involved though in the process to identify the properties that were selected and what the development proposals might be on those properties. So it was very interesting from the planning perspective to be really engaged in this process. Because I've been talking to the people who own that property or are buying some of these properties. I know what's being built there. Jackie provided some great input from the building side. Well, I don't know exactly how many apartments are in that apartment building, but I know who does know. I don't know what they said the value was when they applied for the building permits, but I know who does know. So we were able to provide the consulting team, I think, with really good, realistic information about what might develop on these properties. Now, in a couple of cases, Tidewater is under development, the Tidewater Community Living Project. But a couple others are like, well, we've historically known there's a hotel, but you know, and I was able to reach out and ask some questions and confirm some things. So, but a couple of properties, we don't know what's gonna happen on them. So we made small estimations about what might happen. So anyway, Elaine, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you wander through the PowerPoint, and they've got technical questions. I'm gonna direct them to you. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds great. And I am totally okay if you interrupt me during the PowerPoint. Sometimes it's helpful to listen to the whole thing because what question you have might be answered later in the PowerPoint, but I'm comfortable either way. And I will let Carla tell me if there are questions because I can't see everybody. So if you, Carla, if you just want to interrupt me, if you
Will
need.
do.
So I'm Elaine Howard. I'm the consultant who's been working on this project. And I do consulting all over the state of Oregon on urban renewal, and I've done that for about 20 years. So I understand urban renewal really well. And what is before you tonight is an urban renewal plan. And what urban renewal is basically a financing tool to be able to fund projects in a specified area within your city. So I will walk through the, you have some sheets there of the PowerPoint. They aren't going to show that up on the screen. You're just going to look at your sheets. So the first page just says roadmap. So I'll go through the role of the Planning Commission. In between 1 and 2, I'm going to go through that other handout that you just got, the little one pager that has graphics on it that talks a little bit about how urban renewal works. And then I'll do a plan overview of what things are actually in the urban renewal plan, what the process and next steps are, and a potential motion for you to consider. So if you look at the handout that Carla just gave you tonight, it has some graphics on it, and I'm going to walk through that for you. So in Oregon, when we pay our property taxes, it's shown by a bar across the bottom. I don't know if you were able to do it in color or not. If you were, it's a green bar across the bottom, and it just shows that when we pay our property taxes, they go to the assessor's office, and the assessor's office distributes all of those to the regular taxing jurisdictions. In Oregon, on the second picture, property taxes go up really for only 2 reasons. The assessor is allowed to increase our property taxes or our assessed value and the resulting property taxes by 3% every year, but it's limited at 3%. Our property taxes may not go up more than 3% per year unless there is new construction on a property or a substantial rehabilitation. If that happens, then the assessor is allowed to reassess the property and reassess or reestablish the assessed value of that property. So if you look at the third picture, in the blue or the circle within the graphic, it shows that when an urban renewal area is formed within a city, the increase in property taxes over time end up not going to those regular taxing districts anymore. They go to the urban renewal area to do projects, programs, and pay for the administration of the urban renewal area. So the property taxes of that green bar, the bottom bar, represent the assessed value at the time an urban renewal area is established, and those property taxes will continue going to all the regular taxing jurisdictions. But if this area gets established, any increases in taxes for the timeline of the area will go to the urban renewal agency to do those projects within the area. So if you go back to your PowerPoint then to the page that says role of the Planning Commission. So the role of a planning commission is to review the urban renewal plan for conformance to the Boardman comprehensive plan and make a recommendation to the Boardman City Council. The ORS 457, which is the statute that governs urban renewal, is not specific about the role of the planning commission. It says that the planning commission must receive a briefing. And it also says that the city council, when they adopt the plan, must state that the plan is in conformance to the comprehensive plan. As an urban renewal practitioner, what I have done is put those two together because it is the planning commission's responsibility to review and make sure that the comprehensive plan is followed. So it makes a lot of sense for the planning commission to make that review of the urban renewal plan and make sure it conforms to the comprehensive plan. An urban renewal plan is adopted, the next page. Public input is received in any of these different meetings. So the agency reviews the plan and decides whether to send it out for public review. That happened a couple of weeks ago. The Boardman Urban Renewal Agency did review the proposed plan and did have the city send it out to all of the different taxing districts. There will be a county presentation before this comes back to the city council. Tonight, it's going to the Planning Commission for the review of the comprehensive plan. And then in August, it is scheduled for a city council hearing. And then the 1st of September, it is scheduled for a vote. That city council hearing in the August meeting has to be noticed to the entirety of the city, either through utility bills or postal patrons or voters. And I believe that the list that the city sent it out to was to utility customers. So that has been done. And that hearing is on August
1st.
August 1st.
Yep.
So if you look at the next page, that shows the boundary of the urban renewal area. It is north of I-84, and it is east of Main Street. And you can see by the large parcels, it is mostly undeveloped. What the city is looking for is to help development to happen, especially along those commercial properties that are just north of I-84, to cause development of services there to help serve that new residential community that is being developed now, and to serve tourists who come in off of the freeway and are looking for services. So this is the proposed boundary of the area, and it does take in the development that's happening at Tidewater right now, but it also takes in a lot of largely underdeveloped or undeveloped parcels. If you look on your next page, the title is Statutory Limitations. In Oregon, you may have up to 25% of your total acreage, or 25% and or of your assessed value in an urban renewal area. The city of Boardman has two existing urban renewal areas, the Central Urban Renewal Area, the Southwest Renewal Area, and the North Urban Renewal Area. When you add those together, the total acreage that's in urban renewal is 17.87%, so below that 25% threshold. And the assessed value is 2.37%. The reason that's really important to look at is normally you would think that your acreage amount would be roughly equal to your assessed value amount if the area was fully developed. So just seeing that 2.37 helps to reinforce the fact that a large part of this area and your other urban renewal area is underdeveloped according to what the rest of the city is in terms of assessed value. So it meets those statutory requirements in both the acreage and assessed value. On the sheet that says projects, the projects that are being proposed for this area are mainly transportation projects, infrastructure projects. And I have a map later in the presentation. You probably could pull that map up and look at it side by side to the project list. But the projects are extending Northeast Boardman Avenue to Olson Road, including pavement, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and lighting. Improve Northeast Front Street, including pavement, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and lighting. An alley from 2nd Avenue to Northeast to 3rd Street Northeast. 2nd Avenue Northeast to Columbia Avenue, construction, Columbia Avenue Northeast to Boardman Avenue Northeast, North Main Street and Boardman Avenue intersection improvements, and then allowing a category to provide other transportation improvements as necessary. The second main category area is economic development incentives. So that's actually working with business owners or developers to help understand what is prohibiting them from completing development and to help provide those features that, so maybe it's a utility connection, maybe it's a street in front of them, maybe they need some work with reviewing design, but it gives the Urban Renewal Agency the ability to work with developers to help make development happen within the area. So to provide incentives that says, if you develop this, then we can help you by doing this. The next slide shows estimated costs of projects. So these were provided by the city's engineer, and you can see that the majority of those projects the costs are associated with the transportation projects. And the economic development toolkit, the total costs are a little under $11 million. The economic development toolkit are working with developers is only $2 million of that. The rest of the funding goes to those infrastructure improvements. The next page has a map of where those improvements actually go. And for most of you, you probably were able in your mind to see where those were, except for the one in purple, which is a proposed new street in the future that would connect from Columbia Avenue Northeast down to Boardman Avenue. So that would be an entirely new transportation connection as all of that area is developing in the future. But this just shows you where those projects would be. To do an urban renewal plan, we do financial forecasting, because an urban renewal plan, again, it is a financing mechanism. So it's not establishing new zones or new comprehensive plan designations. It's only providing funding to help implement projects. But to do that, we have to establish what's called a maximum indebtedness. Maximum indebtedness, as shown on this slide, is $27 million. That is over a 20-year time frame. A 20-year time frame is a relatively short time frame for urban renewal in Oregon. So this area is projected to develop fairly quickly. The $27 million in today's dollars, so that $27 million is over a 20-year time frame. When you discount that back to today's dollars, and the engineering firm asked us to use a 7% inflation rate. So when we discount that back, it's at 7% annually, is a capacity for projects of $11 million. That roughly equals the cost of the projects that were shown on the slide, 2 slides back. The capacity is slower in the beginning because you are waiting for development to occur, some of that new development, and to come on the property tax rolls. The work that the planning staff with the building staff did to provide us information on development was used to make these projections. So we use that information on known development and projected development over time to try to predict the amount of new assessed value within the area and the resulting property taxes off of that new value. And again, that new value, the taxes off of that would all come to the Urban Renewal Agency to do these projects. So it doesn't go to the county or back to the city or to any of those other taxing jurisdictions. Urban renewal does not increase anybody's property tax bill. So a lot of times there's a misconception that if you're in an urban renewal area, your property taxes go up, or anybody in the city, your property taxes go up because of urban renewal. That is not how urban renewal is funded. It is funded by the other taxing districts foregoing their taxes off of the growth of value within that area during the time frame of the area. There are a lot of taxing districts in Boardman that are intersected with this urban renewal area. And this chart shows the different impacts on those different taxing jurisdictions over that 20-year time period. Education districts are funded differently in Oregon. They are funded through the state school fund. So they are impacted indirectly, and their revenues do not go down because of urban renewal in your community. In the state school fund, a per pupil allocation is established, and the legislature must meet that per pupil allocation. If they do not have enough revenues through permanent rate property taxes, which is what urban renewal functions on, they have other state resources that they are able, like income taxes or federal grant money, that they are able to put into the state school fund to still meet that per pupil ratio. So that works for the school district and the education service district. The community college is also funded through a statewide fund through classes that are taken according to the amount of classes taken by students. So it is also indirectly impacted by urban renewal. The next slide is the one that directly pertains to you and your information tonight. And that is looking at the comprehensive plan goals that were reviewed for the conformance of the urban renewal plan projects to the comprehensive plan goals. So the goals that we looked at were citizen involvement, land use planning, air, water, and land resources quality, economic needs, housing, public facilities, and transportation. And then we also looked at the Boardman Transportation System Plan. So since the projects that we are doing are mostly transportation projects and projects to help bolster economic development, it's very easy to look at the transportation section of your comprehensive plan and say that these projects do conform to your transportation system plan and to the transportation element of your comprehensive plan, both for providing that network within the area for the transportation, and then also helping to facilitate economic development. As housing is being developed in that area, that transportation network needs to be improved both for safety and for the different connections to make it easy to access the area and to make the area more safe. So that is part of the reason why we reviewed that housing element. And then the other elements are basic elements that have, because the transportation system is being improved, that pertains to public facilities. It also pertains to air, water, and land resources quality. And the land use planning talks about developing areas within your city limits to make the best use of the land. So a lot of that property is underdeveloped, and being able to provide both the transportation network and to try to get new economic development within the area will help with the development within the area. I don't know if we want to stop here and talk about those some more, or if anyone wants us to walk through anything in the findings that Ms. McLean put together for you. So just let us know maybe at this point what your desire is in terms of if you want more explanation, if you want any of that read, or if you have any questions on the comprehensive plan conformance.
So what I would say is that like I shared, I took out of the plan document that Elaine and her team had created, and I informed our findings document with that. That's what you're gonna be moving forward. As I read through them, I made a few suggestions to Elaine along the way. She's made some changes to the document. I'm comfortable with this document. I probably would have, if I had written this, I probably would have written a lot more. But it's not, it could be considered superfluous. I mean, it could be, because I can be wordy at times. So I think it's adequate for what you're asked to do and the statutory framework of what governs this. I think she has adequately identified the appropriate goal policies. I thought briefly about the recreational goal. Because there's a dog park and a splash pad and a skate park that are in this area. And development could relocate those. They would not displace them, but they could relocate them. They're not recreational opportunities the city would remove. But I think the city's always been very open to, if development wanted to happen along Front Street, we could put a dog park in another part of the community. So I'm thinking about that. I contemplated talking about the recreational needs, but I decided that I wasn't sure it was really necessary. Because beyond that, we're not proposing parks in this area. That's not something that's being proposed as part of this. Depending on a development that happens down there, there could be a park that becomes required based on the development. But again, it's not specifically a requirement of the urban renewal plan. So as I thought about that, I kind of came to the conclusion that it's probably better served to not discuss the recreational goal 8. So again, that's probably the one, as I read through it, that was the one question that I came up with. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought about it, I kind of set it aside and said, no, I think I'm comfortable with what's in there. So I'm happy to talk about these things in more depth. I know you just got this today, so you've not seen this document. But again, this document comes directly, the meat of this document comes directly out of the plan, which is what you were provided with last week. So again, I'm happy to get into more detail. If you've got questions, Elaine is the expert and she's the one that can answer them. And yeah, so you kind of know what the end goal is. The very last slide of the presentation is Elaine's suggested motion. So when we get through the hearings process, there is no one here tonight that, everybody on the phone is either a planning commission member or staff, and the only folks in the room tonight are planning commission members or staff. So I don't think we're gonna have any public testimony tonight. Ralph or Tony Rolf or Tony could, throw me a loop here and decide to testify, but I'm not anticipating that. So I'll throw it back to you, Vice Chair Parisi.
So this is not the first urban renewal plan I've read. It looks really similar to the last one. I don't remember if it was the
Central or the West, yeah.
I think it was the last one I saw.
Same person, don't want
I haven't seen anything in here that's like out of line, out of the ordinary, that doesn't that strays from the comprehensive plan at all. Everything seems pretty straightforward to me. I understand the gist of it, big enough to be dangerous, probably.
I don't have any like overarching questions right now. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. This is Ragna Tenike. And I just have a question with the agency when it's formed. Is there ever a conflict in that basically the city council is the agency, and then when they make amendments, then it goes to the city council to get voted on? So it's kind of redundant. I couldn't find who is supposed to make up that board. Is it always the city council?
In Boardman, it is the city council. As I said before, I've worked across the state for a little over 20 years. And the statute allows the city council to establish who is the urban renewal agency. And when I first started doing this work, the urban renewal agency was sometimes people other than city council. And I used to think, well, that makes sense. But as I've worked in the area, it is best to have it be the city council, because if the agency does something that you don't like, you do have the ability to vote out the city council. The urban renewal agency is not a voted position. It's an established position.
Sure.
So if someone's removed from city council, then they're also removed from the agency. So there still is local control and local responsibility to the voters, because
Sure.
it is the city council that makes those decisions. And the other thing that happened sometimes when it wasn't city council is city council would get stopped, especially in a small community like Boardman. If the agency's making a decision or spending money, you a lot of times don't know who's on the agency if it's not city council, and it's the city council people who people think make those decisions. So they would get stopped and be asked questions and asked why, but they weren't the decision makers. So I've come to the decision that it really works best to have it be the city council, both because of the accountability, and they are used to making those economic decisions and financial decisions. And they have to make sure that urban renewal and city council balance with each other.
Sure,
So that
sure.
the city can continue
I
making-
understand all that. I just thought it should be noted in the record.
Yep.
In the notes, that there is kind of that thing where you have people who are approving what they did in the other, it's kind of a not a chicken and egg thing, but you're looking at it and going, okay, we made this decision. Now we're going to go over here and say we approve the decision we made. We liked it. Of course you did. You made it. So anyway, okay. I just thought it should be
Yep.
noted somewhere.
Yep.
That. All right.
Good
Thank you
point.
for your. Yep. Thank you.
The communities that will be affected, they've been notified. And they were correct, like we'll say the neighborhood of Boardman Avenue Northeast.
So yes, so the notice, you all live inside the city limits, you will all receive a notice. I've watched Tony fold a few and stuff a lot of envelopes over the last several days. And again, those notices, I believe, went out in yesterday's mail. So those will be in your mailboxes shortly. So every resident of Boardman, I shouldn't say every resident, every utility customer in Boardman will receive that notice of the public hearing that the city council will have on August 1st.
That's gonna be a lot.
It could be very likely, yes, could be very likely, could be the meeting to attend in Boardman in August, yes. I think as I've learned more about urban renewal through this process, the taxpayers of Boardman don't see a difference. I mean, if you own a piece of property in the urban renewal, in any of the 3 urban renewal districts, if and when this one is approved, your tax bill is going to come to you and it's not going to be any different than it has been in the past. If you owed $1,000 before, you're going to owe $1,000
Yeah, I
in
would
the future.
even consider taxes. I was considering like when you open up that to go all the way to Olson, the flow of traffic through that neighborhood will probably will increase. Or coming out of the State Center after an event, that would increase, just because that's a quiet, nice, dead end neighborhood. right now.
Right.
And,
But urban renewal or not,
yeah,
these are not transportation projects that are dependent upon this action.
right,
Those, as development happens, urban renewal or not, those additional transportation networks and these improvements to roads and other infrastructure will continue to happen.
sure,
So urban renewal is a mechanism to help pay for that. It's not a mechanism that's gonna make it happen,
right,
if that makes sense.
Yep.
And really from a who is impacted from a financial perspective, that's the special districts. Those are the taxing districts on that one sheet in there, in the PowerPoint. It's vector control, it's the cemetery district, it's the fire district, it's, those are the folks who over the next 20 years are gonna, when a new hotel gets built in this, there's 2 potential hotels in this urban renewal district. If one or both of those get built, when they build that hotel, the hotel's gonna pay the higher taxes. But when those tax dollars are distributed, those taxing districts are gonna forego the increase, not
Right.
basic. They're still gonna get the basic money. What they're foregoing is the increase. And that's increase goes to the agency who then that's how they pay for
right.
that road, the sidewalk, the path, the improvement, all those good things. Yep. Hopefully that answers the
Yeah,
question.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then when that 20 years is up, go on. So after that urban renewal is up, the taxes, they froze their taxes at this rate. The taxes went up to this rate, they automatically go up to that new rate.
Oh, I wasn't sure where you were headed with that. Yes. At the end of the 20 years, the taxing districts don't get that 20 years back.
Right,
But they're gonna, in year 21, they're gonna get the full benefit of those improvements going forward. Yes, absolutely. So I wasn't quite sure where you were headed. So sorry.
I was with you.
Any other questions?
So I had 2 more slides if you don't.
Okay,
So the last page of yours would probably be next steps and schedule. So we have your meeting tonight. The county briefing will be scheduled by the city at a county meeting in July or August. The city council hearing is August 1st, and the city council would be scheduled to vote on September 5th. And it is on a non-emergency ordinance, so that does not go into effect for 30 days. And then there's a suggested motion. We only put the suggested motion in because the language within the statute is fairly specific and uses language that a planning commission doesn't usually use. You usually use language like consistent, and in the statute for urban renewal, it says conformance. So just to make sure we use the same verbiage that's required in the statute, we give you this proposed language. You can feel free to change any of that as long as you still use the verb conform for me. So
yeah, and staff.
my presentation, I'm happy to answer.
Staff
any of your
support. Yeah, staff support the proposed, the suggested motion, and appreciate the statutory language. One of the things I've learned, 20+ years doing land use in Oregon, when they write statute A, they don't think about the impacts to statute B, C, or D. So regularly we have these inconsistencies. And with land use, we deal with inconsistencies with tax law and obviously with urban renewal law. So we need to use the urban renewal law in this particular situation. So.
And I assume there's no other correspondence.
There's been no correspondence, absolutely, yep.
So any public testimony? I guess I should ask, even though it's all commissioner staff.
Like I said, Tony or Wolf might throw me a loop here.
And thank you again for your presentation, by the way. It's very nice and very informative. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
Does the commission or any commissioner have any questions at this time?
I've got a clarification question for Carla. This is Jacob.
Yep.
Is there any concern? I know there's some special districts with board members and employees on our commission. Is there any concerns here with conflict of interest?
I would think not, because the employee would not be in a decision-making role. That the board would move forward relative to the conversation with the council around that decision. But Elaine?
I would
do
agree
you
with
have
that.
any-
Yeah.
Okay,
And if somebody was on the board, I think if they just declared that they were on the board and that they aren't speaking for the board, but they're speaking for the planning commission at this
Yeah.
point, then that would be the way to handle that.
yeah, and I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree.
And you guys had said school district, so that's my concern. My personal concern is being on the school board. I'm a little bit, I wasn't realizing the full scope of our discussion tonight, so I want to make sure I'm not overstepping anywhere here.
Yeah, and the school district is not impacted directly by urban renewal, so I don't think that there is any real issue for you there.
Okay, if that's accurate, that's great. I just had heard somebody use the school district as an example a few minutes ago, so I just wanted to make sure that, okay.
So Jacob, just to go back, in your packet, and I know you're in your car, so you can't see this, but there was a slide and it specifically talked about, now I can't find it. I can't jump right to it. Oh, here it is. So the general government, so she's got two slides about general government, and that's Morrill County, the radio district, health district, Port of Morrill, so on and so forth. And then there is the education, and again, education is Intermountain, ESD, Blue Mountain, and Morrill County School District. And again, as Elaine went through, because it's the per pupil state funding mechanism. If they are getting more or less money from any one jurisdiction based on all kinds of reasons, not just urban renewal, but it could be an enterprise zone agreement or some other function of some other program where they may not get those full dollars. The state still has to make that up and keep the school district whole to the per pupil number. Did I get that right, Elaine?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
I have no more
So,
questions.
I think in the room, we've got a couple of folks who are employed by the fire department. Jacob, you're actually employed by the Port of Morrill, their taxing district. So we do have some of those, but I think Elaine's right, and I would agree that in your role as an employee, you're not in that decision-making capacity that your board or your executive leadership would be in. So I think you would be one or two steps removed from that.
I agree. It's just not knowing where the board, sits on this position of this discussion topic could affect an employee's outlook on their position, which is also, which would affect our decision-making process. So that's the only reason I'm asking the question. Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
All right, is there any discussion by the commission? Ragnar, Jacob?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Does anyone want to entertain a motion?
So when you do your motion, again, we're gonna have to change the signature line in the findings document and remove Jacob and replace it with Zach. So the only addition to this suggested motion would just be to amend the staff report as noted.
Okay. So I move that the Boardman County Commission finds based upon the information provided and the corrections that we've stated, the staff report to provide attachments, the North Boardman Urban Renewal Plan conforms with the Boardman Comprehensive Plan. That it should be adopted.
So,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend the city council adopt the North Boardman urban renewal plan. I'm sorry, let's take a vote. Sorry.
What was that?
Can we take a vote?
Yes, we need to take a look. Jackie needs to find her list, her cheat sheet here. She
I
buried it.
shuffled it in. Okay, we're gonna just ad lib this. Ragna,
Yes.
Jacob,
Yay.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Mike,
yes,
and Zach.
Yes.
Okay, so Zach, the one thing I need to coordinate with you is I need to make changes to those two staff reports, and then I need to coordinate you coming in and signing those. So if you want to hang out for a few minutes, we can do that tonight.
I can hang out.
Okay.
You want to do that tonight?
Let's just hang out.
I'd
We'll
love to
get
get
it
it
done
done sooner than later.
tonight. Yes, we'll just hang out and get it done tonight. That'll work.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we're on page 2 of the agenda.
In order here. Okay, so it sounds, it looks like discussion items, Boardman Development Code.
So, yeah, we've been here a little over an hour. I'm gonna pass on that tonight, just because we're just gonna leave it on it. What I do want to say is that, August 1, we have a new city manager starting. So, I think it's pretty exciting, and, I don't know what kind of changes it's gonna have to everything we do, but, it'll be fun to try to train up somebody new with planning. But, you know, we'll take it on, and, we're gonna have a good time with that. So, I think that's just a really, kind of big thing in the near, not too distant future. I also,
Does that take effect the first?
yeah, he starts the first. It's Brandon Hammond. Some of you may have known Brandon. He lived in Boardman for several years, worked at the school district. Was a principal, I think, at that point in time. Left to take on a superintendent role, another place in the state, and is coming back to take on, he ran the school, now he's gonna run the city. So it's kind of exciting times around here. We're all kind of anticipating it's a couple weeks out for that to start, so.
you need to go back to being a traffic cop.
Oh. He also was a city councilor for 8 years, so he has a pretty good understanding of the inner workings of the city.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is we don't have any applications for August. And I will also be in South Dakota again, so at this point in time, I'm recommending that we cancel the August meeting. I'm looking for your basically your concurrence with that. There's nothing has come in that would be need to have a public hearing. So at this point in time, the next public hearing would be the 3rd Wednesday in September.
So disappointing.
What was that?
Nothing.
So, yeah. I think that covers it for what I would say. Again, we don't have any public comments, so an opportunity for commissioners to make any comments, and I'll let you take it back over, Vice Chair Barisi, and
Just very excited. Lots of movement in the city. That's all.
well, you know, along that line, I guess I would say that it was kind of interesting going through this process with Elaine, and I think she's popped off. It's been interesting to going through this urban renewal because, you know, we've talked to a number of developers about this property or that property, but there's actually some movement happening, and there's some conversations going on, and I think some things might just cut loose. We might We might actually see a hotel in Boardman in the next year or two, a new one. We might see some more residential opportunity. You know, we might see a couple of roads get punched through and finished off, so. Yeah, it's exciting times to be here, I think. Yeah.
Really good. As far as next month for me, August is really busy for me, so. We got nothing on file.
Okay,
I'm good.
okay. If something should come in and there's any urgency with it, we still have to do notice. At this point in time, we couldn't accomplish notice for something in August. But if something comes in and it's urgent, I might reach out and say, hey, instead of the middle of September, are you available a little earlier? But at this point in time, nothing has come in. And I'm anticipating a variance, but it is not critical, so. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, if there's nothing else, I guess we should adjourn.
If there's any other commission comments, otherwise I'll let you guys.
Oh, yeah, finish comments. Sorry, I skipped it.
Jacob, Regna, any comments before we close out?
Nope.
I don't necessarily had any, but I know Carla's prompting me to inform the rest of the commission. This is probably my last meeting. This is Jacob. I'm actually moving out of the county, so I'll no longer be able to serve on the committee, but just so you guys know, I have a new chair pretty soon.
So, Jacob hasn't formally resigned yet, but, I anticipate that will happen, and I wasn't prompting you. Which means the next time we do meet, you will need to have a consideration for a new chair and vice chair, so I'll let you guys, offline, kind of duke that out, and I'll let you. Vice Chair Barisi did a pretty good job tonight, so he might need an actual chair.
Slow down.
But again,
Can we vote
we'll
on
have
it
that-
tonight so I get my input?
Jacob? Very cool, dude.
Oh, you haven't formally resigned yet, Jacob, so you're still the chair.
All right.
You have the gavel. so
Yeah, you got the
Yeah,
gavel. Slam that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. All right.
All right, boys, we'll adjourn.
Good night.
Well,